Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Good Girl Syndrome show. My name is Julie Vander Meulen or Julie Vander Meulen, depending on where you are in the world and the language that you use to pronounce my name. I am an empowerment coach for high achieving women, if you don't already know me. And I have developed a concept called Good Girl Syndrome, which is what this whole show is all about. So every single week, I unpack a theme that is inspired to me by one of the messages or comments or forms that is completed by one of you, by someone in my audience, with a real question, a real situation, like something that I've received from you. And you asked me for guidance. So someone in the audience asked me for guidance on that topic, and I use that as the basis for my episodes. So today's episode is a Sunday episode, what I call a Sunday episode, which is where I unpack that same theme that I've already unpacked earlier in the week, right? So this week on Wednesday, I unpacked the situation of Lydia, who was talking about her tendency to be the girl in the shadows, how she never wanted to step forward. And we talked about this whole question of like, did she feel like she was worthy, of being visible and, what would happen if she was visible and stuff like that. And so, if you're interested in that, you can go and check out the episode from Wednesday. So that would be what episode is now? I think this is episode number 16. So that would be, we would have to search for episode number 15 if you're interested in that. And today I'm going to tell you how I have dealt with all of that, like what my pattern of being the girl in the shadows has been, what it used to look like, how I got out of it, and where I am right now on my journey out of there. Because it's not done, right? The journey's never over, right? So, at least that's my belief. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Before we do, though, as always, if you are enjoying these episodes, please do show me some love, encourage me, tell me that this matters, whatever it is. Just say hi, it doesn't matter. But please put some thumbs up, comment, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. If you think this could help anyone else, please do recommend this show to anyone else, right? Share it with other people. That would mean the world to me. And if, of course, you have a question that you would like answered, or you have a situation you need help with, and you don't necessarily want a coaching session with me or anyone else, you can just ask me in the Google form that is in the description box below. Whether you are listening to this on Spotify or watching this on YouTube, it's in the description box. You'll see an Ask Julie form, and you can ask me anything you want, and I will make sure to answer your question in the coming weeks, basically, depending on my content calendar and how many people have reached out to me and asked me questions. Um, I think it's time to start. So, me and being the girl in the shadows, it feels like in a specific time of my life, those would have been synonymous. Like Julie and being the girl in the shadows would have been exactly the same thing because that's who I was. It really was 1,000,000% me. I was very much, we didn't see the whole background of Lydia and how she was living her life and her career, but from what it sounded, from what I read, the piece that I read, um, it sounded like Lydia was very much like me, which is hyper competent, the strong type of person who figures everything out, right? Um, she'll do all the things, she'll be all the things for everyone, she'll be very polite. Like that's who I used to be. And there's a lot of that still in me now, in the sense that I acquired a lot of skills in the process of being this version of me. I acquired a lot of skills, many, many, many skills. And it's funny because I just wrote a post on social media. I don't know when it will come out. I can't remember. I put it in my content calendar in advance, where I'm actually talking about how I tend to be the youngest person in a room. I'm 34 years old now. And I've already had 3 or 4 different careers at this stage. And in every single career that I took, I always went very, very fast from a junior level to a senior type of level. So yeah, that's just the way that I tend to do things. part of it is because I'm playful, right? I'm playful. I'm very curious. Like I have this vibe to me where I love learning and I'm fast and all of that. Part of it is just because I was always trying to, find my own worth, and my worth was determined, like we were seeing for Lydia on Wednesday. I established my worth based on how capable I was, how much I was doing, how well I was performing, that I would be the best, like all these different things, which meant that from a very young age, I have really strived for, achievement and doing a lot and, in every sphere of my life, And so the beauty of that, if I can see the positive things now, is that being extremely capable nowadays requires very little effort for me because I have been training for 30 plus years in that, right? So it's a skill I have, right? There's a lot of skills that I have from the past, even if now I try not to behave this way. But yeah, so being a girl in the shadows was exactly me. And how it looked like was that, except for the fact that I was hyper competent, I never wanted to be in the spotlight in any way. I was always, I would do all the things and then I would not present the thing, right? I would be preparing all sorts of different things, helping, like if I really needed to, like if it was helping someone for me to do something and to be exposed, like to feel exposed, I do it and I'd feel super proud and I do it really, really well, right? Because I loved helping. It's a topic we can talk about in a different episode as well. The good girls and the need to help everyone and save the world and like all these different things, beautiful things, but sometimes also a little destructive, depending on, where it comes from and where it comes from. And how you interpret that and how you put that in action. But yeah, so I would do all the things and then I would stay hidden. And just like Lydia, I was also feeling resentful in a sense that I had a misplaced sense of ego, that at the same time, I looked like I was humble, and I was under the impression that I was very humble because I was staying in the background. And yet, at the same time, inside of me, I was internally judging everyone else and constantly like comparing other people and me. And the result would always be that someone was less than. So the if it was me who was less than, which happened all the time, right? Then that would mean I need to strive for more. I need to do better. I need to do, how do I fix this? Like that type of mentality, right? Um, you can understand how I evolved very quickly in every single thing that I did with that type of mentality. And on the other side, if I so happened to then have grown so fast, which I usually did, and then I was outperforming other people, then I was being arrogant inside myself. I was like, I'm better than them, da 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 da, and I had a whole attitude going to me, which, like, either way, isn't very very nice. So that was what it looked like for me. And so, for example, in terms of like, um, because Lydia was talking about competence. For me, what helped me really understand. I mean, there's a few things that made me feel more humble. Like life humbled me at different stages because the thing is, when you are a rocket like I am, you launch very fast. But if it's not the right way or not the right venture or whatever, you also will come back down very, very fast, right? Which means there's a lot of pain. No, there's a lot of disillusionment. There's a lot of things there. And so one of the things that in the process of one of my, going down, um, I had just started my second PhD. I never finished my first PhD. I had done 5 years and then I decided I would stop because it was not the path for me. Then when after a year or so of being out of that PhD, my ego, like I knew that a PhD was not meant for me, but a part of me could not stomach the fact that I had stopped a PhD and I still had something to prove to the world, no? And so, as people do, I went and I enrolled in a second PhD, which this one lasted like 3 months, no? And so for different reasons, not just because but like it was a whole array of reasons, part of them financial. Um, and in that PhD, I received so much and I learned so much. I was very happy to be done with it, but I also am so grateful that I was in it because for these 3 months that I was in, I received, I think, everything that I was supposed to, if you see what I mean. Because I understood that, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like this is worse than my first PhD. And not because the program was not good. The program was really good. It was just not what I wanted to do. I just couldn't face that reality because I really wanted this to work for this time. So I had a bias. What was fun, one of the things that was fantastic is I developed good girl syndrome there. It's because of the reflections in that seminar. In those seminars, as PhD seminars, that I came up with the idea for good girl syndrome. Um, and the other thing is my supervisor for this PhD that never happened, right? For the very early stages of this research, he told me once, um, we were talking about, I can't remember how it came about. I think we had to talk about one object, one random object, come with an object in our environment and talk about it. And I chose to talk about my glasses. And at the end of it, we were talking about how, like, he helped me realize that I was basically hiding in plain sight. That, like, that was a topic in my life, that I was always hiding in plain sight. And, like, my glasses were, like, the object that really represented that for my life. And I think that to me, when I think about that, why I say that is because glasses to me, I mean, they use them because I need them, right? They help me, but also they are the thing that, like, to me represents also expertise. Like, experts wear glasses and like you look all serious and whatever, right? And so I realized from that point that, like, I was really using competence as a shield from the world. That, like, I was using not just the doing, but like, and not just the achievements themselves, because I thought I had gone beyond that, but like the idea of me being a person who is competent, the identity of a competent person, was my shield in the world, right? It was the thing that was compensating for my lack of sense of self-worth, right? I Instead of having self-worth, I had created, like, manufactured myself. It's a smart, survival mechanism, right? But I had manufactured a very, very competent identity, right? And so that gave me a sense of confidence to be in the world, and that, like, I really valued going to work and being good at work and like all these different things. Like, that was very, very important to me. And the reason why it was so important to me is because that was my whole identity. That was how I, in how do you say? How when you try to heal things by yourself, you craft things that you don't necessarily understand what you're doing. But I had crafted something there that gave me the illusion of a sense of self-worth. The issue, though, was that I did not feel that underneath it, I did not feel that, like, as a person, I had any worth. I, like, anything that anyone would say about me or to me, would feel like harsh criticism to me, even when it wasn't. And I would overreact to everything, either in person, but most of the time it would be inside of me. Like, I would internalize all the feedback and then cry for hours and, like, like, and then overcompensate as well by saying this will never happen again and I will, like, this, and then I would be, accelerating my progress to a degree that would then impact my own health and my own mental health and all these different things. So I was stuck in loops of that because I was trying to, like, craft and keep together and grow the sense of self-worth. And the only way to do that was through, like, amassing knowledge and competences and wisdom. And, like, that was how I thought that, I would be, someone of value, basically. Which brings me to the second thing, which is then how I was known to people is, to people, but also to myself, is I was the useful one, right? I can still be like that very much. Like, I'm the useful one. Whatever you need, I got it. I understand it. I'll figure it out, right? I was that type of person. I was also the best. The best was very important to me, to be the best in the room, right? And originally, it didn't come, I mean, it for sure came out of ego, but my intention with it originally was not because of that. It was because I was afraid. Because if anyone was better than me, then because I was constantly comparing myself, then I was afraid of like, what does it mean? Am I going to get fired? Are they going to replace me? Are they? And so it came from that type of space. It's only after, like, once I figured it out and I like surpassed that person in that skill or in this area of competence, then it would become arrogance. But originally, I was not doing the things out of arrogance to begin with. I was doing them because I was not feeling like I was enough, right? Another thing that I was very much was reliable. I still am. I'm the responsible person. I'm the reliable one. Like, you can always count on me and stuff like that. And so, which also meant that I would give myself and others would give me too, because I created that type of culture around me and expectation around me. I would create massive amounts of work, right? Massive amounts of work, results, but also then hours spent on things, right? Like it was crazy the amount of things. And I expected that from myself to always be like faster and better. And, all these different things. There's the stacking that I constantly expected from myself. And the other thing that I kept wanting to be is kind. And that is one that is still with me, that I'm still working through, that it's still important for me to be kind. And it's where I get in trouble. One of my coaches and mentors, she's fantastic. She was she's in the Tony Robbins world as well. She's one step above me. She was what we call my trainer during one of the events that we were co-animating together. One day in the beginning, when I first met her, I said, when I described myself, I am kind. And she just repeated back to me, I can be kind. And I was like, what's she saying? And she was like, I can be kind. I can be mean. I can be nice. I can be anything I want. I don't have to be any of those things. And I thought like that revolutionized my way of understanding things. I'm still not there yet to like understand that I don't need to be kind every single second because you see it's tied to my worth, right? Um, but yeah, I thought that was absolutely fantastic and I recommend it to you too. To like when you see that you over identify with one quality or with one value or, one need or desire or whatever quality, change it to I can be that, but like it's a choice, I can be any number of things, and I can be multiple things at once, right? I do not need to be stuck in one way of being or one way of thinking or anything like that. So I think that that was really useful. And why I'm telling you all these things is because all of these different identities, like the useful one, the responsible one, the kind one, whatever it is, right? The strong one was another one for me. The best, like all these things are identities that were helping me hide in plain sight. They were helping me be the girl in the shadows because I was useful and capable and competent enough to be in all the right places all the time. But most of the time, I was not getting rewarded for things. I was getting praised to a certain extent. But because I was also being perceived as arrogant, I was being perceived as, even when I wasn't being arrogant, I was also intimidating. I can be intimidating because of how fast I go with different things and how I approach things and how I'm always comparing everything. And like I have a very strategic and analytical mind. And so all of these things can be threatening for other people, right? Especially when it came from an approach of fear where I did not understand that I was creating a lot of these things, these sensations in other people. I was not understanding that. That like my competitive, not, I'm not even going to say nature, my competitive ways were um, giving me, the rewards of being a high performer always, but they were also costing me other things. And part of the things that they were costing me was, how other people were perceiving me. When to begin with, what's interesting, the ironic thing is why I was being the highest performer to begin with, right? Why I started on this path was because I wanted to be liked and to be loved, and because I didn't think I was worthy, right? And so the final result was giving me something. It was not making me happy, if you see what I mean. Because I had created a whole system that gave me one result when what I really needed and wanted was something else. I wanted to be loved and to be accepted and so on. And I could not understand that to be fully seen is actually to be, to just be It's exactly that. Is to be, is not to do or to is not to perform. It's just to be. And to be who you are and to trust that like as you are lovely and you are amazing and you are wonderful and you are also messy and trouble and chaotic and all of these things. But this is a wonderful little creature that you are, a beautiful, beautiful little mess. And that as you are, there's someone out there and a few someones out there that think you're pretty, pretty amazing, just as you are, and who connect with you and who love you. And that is to be fully, fully seen, right? And to feel loved, to feel entirely loved. But it took me a long, long time to understand the difference between the two, right? Um, so yeah. So in terms of visibility, um, I think, yeah, oftentimes then, you know, some people, at least good girls, many times what they will say, a bit like what we were seeing with Lydia. So Lydia now was saying that she's not visible. People can see her and so on. And like she was wondering how she can put herself forward, right? And so I answered her question. I also talked about self-worth, but perhaps this is useful if Lydia, if you're watching this as well. As I think many times when we think about like to me, there's two layers to that, to these types of issues. There's like one issue which is I don't feel like I'm worthy of being visible, right? So actively I actively have a destructive pattern of making myself invisible, right? So that I will not be judged, right? If I'm not seen, I can't be judged, right? So I make myself invisible. I pretend like I don't exist, right? That type of thing. And so we want to remove that so that you can be seen when it's required. And at the same time, the second layer to that is that I think that oftentimes when we have this type of conflict, like Lydia was voicing, or like what I was just saying as well, with that, like hyper performing, and then at the same time, being afraid of being seen, and like all these different, and being arrogant, and all these different things, is that there is something arrogant or egotistical about wanting to be the center of attention instead. So, of course, like we want that because we want to compensate for the lack of, being visible and being the center of attention and so on. But in essence, us wanting to be the center of attention, like of everyone else, is because we want to feel special, right? We want to feel significant, right? And so we confuse things. We think that if we are the center of attention, like that's the issue. That the issue for Lydia to begin with was she she wants to be seen and yet she does not put herself forward, right? As if she were to put herself forward, she would feel seen. It's very different to be visible and to feel seen, right? These are two different things. To feel seen means that like you feel loved. You feel like the person in front of you is fully present with you. They understand you. They fully see who is inside of you and they like you. It's a lot of different things that have to do with love, right? And through that, you receive also a lot of significance because the person in front of you, they have all their attention on you. You are their center of attention for that moment, right? And it matters to you deeply because it's a person you love and they love you back. And that means something. However, when we've lacked those types of things in terms of visibility, oftentimes what we crave, what we think we crave, is the type of visibility that stars have, right? When you see like movie stars or I don't know who else, like politicians and stuff like that, they're on the main stage, they're the center of attention, they're shining. Like we think that's what we want and that's what we need. And perhaps it is what we want, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Some people are fantastic on stage and they can do all sorts of things. I certainly do some of that, and I can enjoy it too, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it is not what will make you feel seen, right? It could give you a sensation and or the illusion of being fully seen, of feeling fully seen, right? Because you are in front of many people, you feel vulnerable in the moment, you are acclaimed and so on and so forth. But none of these people really know you. They know, again, you're performing in front of a lot of people and you do not know them, right? And they don't really know you either. So, yes, you are seen and you're extremely visible, but are you feeling fully seen over a long stretch of time, right? I am not so convinced because I think what you receive there is significance, which is part of the equation, but you are not receiving real love, right? That's not real love. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm thinking about that. And so for me, where I am now in terms of visibility, um, I'm becoming more and more visible, actually. So I did the same thing as what I was telling to Lydia. I kept, and I continue to, I keep removing the obstacles that I put in my own way for being seen. So, for example, I originally it was in writing, so I was doing my newsletter, right? That was a first big step for me to put my opinions out there, and I wasn't even saying like who I was. I wasn't signing Julie. I wasn't signing anything. I was just putting some like very polished opinions of like not even opinions, like ways of improving your life, right? And then my Sunday Sanctuary newsletter evolved and it became more about good girl syndrome. And then I started doing more storytelling of like how it affects me and how like all the different things, right? And so, and putting my own theories and concepts and so on. So that's how I started to be seen, to be visible, right? Not feel seen, but to be visible. And then I started also, I started doing juries. I started, for like entrepreneurs. So I would go and like judge, how well they were doing, if they were worth, you know, graduating from a specific class and stuff like that. I started giving conferences. I went on podcasts. I was writing, I was doing some features, writing articles for Brains Magazine, you know, getting some awards for those. Like I started being visible in these ways for my competence, right? Um, and on this journey, I realized that while I was building credibility as like an expert, glasses on, if you remember, right? With my glasses on, um, and I know, like Lydia knew that she was competent, right? Lydia in her in the last episode was saying like I can't remember exactly how she said it, but she says something like, I know that I'm competent. I know that I'm capable. I know that I'm often like the strongest person in the room." Like she was very confident about her capacity to do things, right? Um, it's the same for me. Like I knew that. I knew that I was a really good coach. I knew that like this good girl syndrome thing was something that was worth it, that I was actually helping women's lives and stuff like that. So I had a certain degree of confidence around all of that, but I realized that while I was doing that, I was still doing the same thing. I was still hiding in plain sight. I was now doing the things that I loved. So my topics, the fact that it's coaching, personal development, and so on and so forth all out there, right? I was showing it. So it was part of it was I was being what that was my step forward of being visible. But I realized that I was still hiding myself. So Julie was hiding behind her glasses again, of like being the expert and being all the things. And I realized then, and I'm still realizing now, I actually do not have to choose, right? Perhaps it's also my past as a researcher and being in academia where we really separate the self, like we try to be what we say objective, right? Which, you believe in it or not. I was part of, how do you say, strand of thought that is called constructivism, where we think everything is constructed. So we don't believe in like objective things. We think that everything is like partially subjective, right? So I originally have a bias towards like not thinking that we should divide things as much as we do, and that I don't think is that possible. But anyway, whatever you think about that. But then what that meant for me is I realized actually I would love to be able to reconcile all of me and to show all of me as it shows up every single day. Like that would be the best. That like I come to this session and I don't try to pretend to be more cheerful than I am. I don't pretend to be more polished than I am. I don't pretend that like my English is better than it is. And I'm sure there's much pretense still in the things that I'm doing. That like in 2 months, you know what I mean? Like 2 months from now, I will look at my episodes, besides the fact that I will think, what were these poor skills that I have, and I will want to do better. Besides that, I will look at myself and I'll be able to be more self-aware and be like, when you said that, perhaps like I can see layers of myself in retrospect that sometimes I cannot see in a moment. And so to me, my own journey now to visibility is I have quite a bit of an audience for my standards, right? I have about, I think in total, if I put everything together, all of my following together, I think I have about 13,000 people now who follow me, which is a big deal for me. For someone who did not want to be seen and to be visible and all of these things about a year and a half ago, that is a big deal to me. And it's only increasing. It's going faster and faster and faster and faster. And I'm realizing that if what I want is to build a movement around good girl syndrome and I want to impact lives, one of the easiest way that I can do that is by telling my own story. Is like is by sharing my own thoughts that are raw and real and very imperfect, right? In the process, not when they're all beautiful and polished and when I'm telling other people's stories, right? The best way that I can impact people and show them what's possible, but also become better at what I do is like confront myself with the reality of where I really am and who I really am and to speak in my own voice. And so I think this is the phase that I'm in. I'm learning to be as raw and I think that I was already pretty raw and real as a person to begin with. But I think that in our society, most of us in so many different ways learn to adapt and to be like just one identity of ourselves that we don't even realize just how unraw and how unreal we really are. You know what I mean? And so that's my process now that I'm linking visibility to being not just vulnerable, but to being very real and to thinking of like, what's the story I want to tell? You know what I mean? Like, what do I want you to come out of? Like, I do these episodes. What do I want you to think? Do I want you to think that I'm this fantastic expert who's figured everything out? No, that's not my purpose with these. Like, could be for you, but for me, like in this phase of my life, this is not what I want to do. To me, what's important whenever I start any of these episodes is that you have a space for you. Like, you have a space for you with someone who is me, right? Who understands you. Like perhaps there's some things I'm missing. Perhaps there's nuances that I don't yet have, like whatever. I don't know you personally, perhaps, like whatever it is. But you have a space where you can just listen to me. And by the end of this year, by the end of 2026, there'll be over 100 episodes on this channel, which means that I will have developed a whole library of resources for any woman who types on the internet or on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, Perplexity, who types on something. She types, "Am I a good girl? How do I prevent myself?" And she wants to find an article. She has 30 articles on Brains Magazine that I wrote. She will find, I don't know how many articles that I wrote, how many posts that I made on social media. She will find the 100 videos that I created here. And so that any woman who sees these things, she has free ways. She doesn't need to pay for anything. She doesn't have to be in a rich country, from a rich environment. She doesn't have to need to do anything. She can just be worthy of receiving some love and some help and having a safe space where she can be. And so that's why I'm doing it. And that's why I'm showing up the way that I am with my hoodie, with my things, and so on and so forth, with whatever comes to me. And I'm trusting that I don't have every one of my episodes does not have to be the most brilliant thing that I've ever done in my life. I just have to show up to be fully present, to be fully me, raw and real. And I'm sure that if there's one person in the world at some point who needs to see this and it's the right video for them and I could help them out, then that's my gift to you. And that's all I need to do. And to me, visibility has become this. And I don't know if you can feel it from my voice, but there's none of the concerns that I used to have around how am I being perceived? How do people feel about me? How about, how many likes do I get? Like all these types of things, they matter to me. I will not say that they don't matter to me because they matter for my strategy, because I want my impact to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So they do matter in terms of strategy. Then I'm like, this is feedback usually. Like there's feedback. If you're not receiving the type of engagement that you want, like tweak it, change it, make it better, make it more real. Like what is this saying? You know what I mean? Um, but for me as a person, I don't make you mean anything about it. I don't think that the content that I'm creating is not good. I think it's really good. I think it's a condensed version of some of my wisdom and it's a riff. So if you had me in front of you and you had a conversation with me, that's what you would get. And I think that's good enough. You know what I mean? If that's what you need and you want a conversation, that's good enough. And to me, that's what being visible. Like that's what it really is. I missed a word when I say that. So to me, that's what it really is. Being visible is being exactly who you are and believing that this is enough, right? It's enough for me, you know? It's enough for me. And so because it's enough for me and I think I'm enough, right? And what I have to say is enough in itself. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be anything but me. And, you know, I'm just being me in this moment. And that's all it takes. And that's what being visible means to me now. And that allows me to then, going back to Lydia, be in the room. And if in the moment what being is being in the spotlight, I don't make a big deal out of it. I'm not stressed anymore. I go and I give a conference. I'm not stressed about what am I going to say, how am I going to say it, how are people perceiving. No, I'm just there. I listen to the question. If I understand it, I reply. If I don't, I'm like, can you repeat it? Right? Can you repeat it? Can you say it in a simpler way? Because I didn't understand it. I don't make it mean anything about whether I'm smart and whether people perceive like this is gone, right? This is gone. So that's my 2 cents on this topic. I hope this was helpful to you or entertaining to you or whatever it was. I for sure enjoyed recording this. I will now leave you. You've had, a whole episode of, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes. If you enjoyed this, please put a little thumbs up, comment, do whatever you want to do. But do encourage me, send me some love because I always, always appreciate it. Um, and I think that's it, my friend. Have a beautiful, beautiful day or evening or whatever it is. And I will go and prepare the newsletter for this week so that you can do your little exercises afterwards and you can work on this idea of like where you are being a good girl who stays in the shadows. And you can unpack whatever that means for you and what you want to do about it. So, with that said, bye.